Welcome, everyone, to another segment of Thunderground Thursday. Of course, I am Chief Yuya speaking, and I want to welcome you to this experience on the Enlightenment and Transformation Network. Of course, you know, Thunderground Thursday is just one cog in the wheel of the actual moving force known as enlightenment and transformation. And for all of you interested in any time, you can go to enlightenmentandtransformation.com, and from there you can pull up blogs and old shows and the forum and sign up for the newsletter and a lot of different things that we have going on there that you can make yourself a part of. So I want to just remind you all of that. Also, another piece, hip you all to, like we've been saying, we're doing monthly webinars now on the Sedula House platform. So you can always go to, we'll be fleshing out or filling out the Sedula House page and putting all of the informers of the webinars to come and everything for those of you who would be interested in participating in that. But anyone that's interested in classes and things like that, you can always go to sedulahouse.com for classes. I want to say peace to everyone also who's coming in on the phone lines. Of course, I see the phone lines are filling up. And, you know, while I'm at it, and just so you know, we got a new number I'm going to be using soon. Okay, so keep an ear out for that. But for now, you can call in at 347-945-7680. 347-945-7680. And if you want to speak or comment or ask a question or whatever it is, just hit the number one. But we got a new line coming soon. Because, you know, it's about sustainability and permanency. And one of the things that always kind of like nagged at me with the phone line that we use now is that it's connected to Blog Talk Radio. So let's say if something happens to Blog Talk tomorrow, then I lose my phone number. So I was always trying to figure out different ways to use our own number that we own and use that for the actual show. So I figured out a way to do it recently. So we'll be using that number soon. We'll use them both for a little while just to kind of wean people off of Blog Talk. But, you know, again, it's about self-sustainability for as much as you can, you know, within a certain framework. And maybe sometimes that framework is what you impose upon yourself based on the comfort that you want. But, you know, so we're working on some of those things. But, yeah, you can call that 347-945-7680 for now. And all you have to do is hit the number one if you want to talk or speak or whatever. And again, peace to everyone who's currently on the phone lines. I see you guys there on my switchboard. And I want to say peace also to everyone who is tuned in from YouTube as well, because we are also broadcasting there simultaneously. And I want to thank you all for the comments and stuff you've been leaving on the videos. I check them all out, and they provide good feedback. They also let me know what type of people listen, which is also important. You know, when people kind of share what moves them and motivates them, it helps me to kind of do a quick little market understanding. And that's important. You know, not just when you have a business, like I said, establishing those lanes of permanency when necessary. You know, it's never a totally safe thing to build your platform on top of somebody else's platform. But the other piece is what makes things easier sometimes is when you know who you're talking to, especially when you're in any type of service industry. You know, I'll give you an example. Recently, I was in a hardware store that was going out of business. Well, they were changing their format. So they were discounting everything like 60 to 40%. So I was in there going crazy, you know. Obviously the lines were crazy because, you know, they're getting rid of everything for nothing. And there were these people, I was in the paint section, and there were these people in there complaining. Like, I've been waiting for 30 minutes and this and that. So I went and spoke to the guy who was handling the paint. I said, listen, I need some paint, but I just want you to know that's why I'm lurking around. But don't worry about me. You know, whenever you get through these people, you can get me last. It's fine. But just so you know, that's why I'm standing around. So he was like, man, I really appreciate that, you know. So I ended up actually standing behind the counter with him. He brought me in the back, and we were just joking and laughing. And, you know, I was saying what's so crazy is that people don't realize that they're getting what they're getting for practically free right now. So there's going to be a price. And the price means that the store is crazy right now. And, you know, You probably are understaffed and this and that. So, we were joking and laughing about that. But, when you talk about your models and whatnot, when you're building a business, it's important to understand that sometimes the people that you're servicing are crazy. So like when they were getting upset, I was like, listen, don't get upset. Anybody who were coming into an environment like this, acting up, basically, is what I wanted to say. Obviously, there's something mentally wrong with them. You see. So, it was just a very interesting dialogue that we were able to have surrounding that. And let me check some. I want to make sure you guys can hear me. Hear me online. I have a feeling that something's going on with the audio again. I just want to make sure either way. I want to know either way if there's a problem with the audio currently. Okay. But yeah, so just a very interesting phenomenon in that sense, when you're dealing with people and you're dealing with the service industry, making sure that you know who it is that you're talking to. Because sometimes people will say some really off the wall stuff to you, and you gotta know who's talking. Maybe the person talking is off the wall, and obviously, you don't want to get roped into crazy world along with them. You don't want to be in that world with them. So it's important to kind of, like I said, understand and know exactly who it is that you're speaking to. That's an important thing. But yeah, anyway. So thank you all again for tuning in. You're in Thunderground Thursday. And do me a favor, if you guys can hear me, someone just hit the number 1 on their phone. If I can be heard right now. Okay. Because we had some problems with the audio on Blog Talk last strong. Okay, I saw the number 1. Somebody just raised their hand. Thank you. All right. And I think that was the same brother that helped us last time. And I see another number 1. Okay, cool. So I'm good. Thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure, we weren't victims of the Blog Talk gremlins again. But yeah, just talking about sustainability. But we're going to build on a couple things tonight, and I want you all to know that freestyle night. So feel free to ask what you want, speak on what you want, and whatever. Do what you want, do what you like. Okay, as long as it's respectful, then we're good to go. And to give you all a heads up too, I'm gonna do the Drop Squad Part 2 breakdown next strong. So if any of you have not seen Drop Squad as of yet, I did the Part 1 already. But if you haven't seen Drop Squad, then I suggest maybe you could check it out if you want to be able to follow along with that particular breakdown. All right, so we're going to be covering Drop Squad again as a heads, because the first time I didn't break down characters and everything like that. Because sometimes the movie breakdowns, because I don't do like 3-4 hour shows with the movie breakdowns, sometimes I have to break it up so that I can cover everything. So, I would urge you all to check out that flick, and you can find it right now. It is on YouTube. There's a crew who has it. So if you search for it, you'll find it. So you could actually watch it for free. Although there's nothing wrong with buying a copy. Let me put that out there. You could also buy a copy. I think it's a good film to have in the library. We got to have our own libraries, because again, nothing lasts forever. There'll come a time when maybe I won't be able to speak openly like this, or I won't want to. And nothing lasts like that. And what we have going on with the internet and everything is just a sign of the times. That information age where we're in. But the information age is also the age of disconnect. It's also the age of giving up rights and responsibilities for a free sandwich. That's what your state assistance is. You give up your information and we'll give you $113 a month to feed 6 people. It's the information age. So yeah, there's all different kind of ways that you can connect. But yeah, Drop Squad is what we'll be covering again next strong. So that should be a good one. We're gonna go obviously deeper into it than what we did it in the first segment. But yeah, like I said, I was just thanking all of you for the comments and things like that you've called in with. And we can get into some of this topic. And before I get into it, I'm gonna give you all again the call-in which is 347-945-7680. I see we already have some callers on the line, but that's for any of you calling in brand new and want to connect, because some people did leave comments on the videos asking how they could participate in the live shows. So the way you would participate in the live shows is you can leave comments. Usually we'll check the comments while the videos are going on. While the shows are going. So you can comment on them. But obviously, if you want immediately to connect, you would call 347-945-7680. So again, the answer to that question that was posted on the walls, how do I connect to the live shows? The answer is you call in. And it's 347-945-7680 for now. Okay. So you can also join in on the Google Hangout. Well, for the show that's going on, you could jump in on the Google Hangout and you could talk that way too. So there's a bunch of different ways to connect. You just got to do it. You just got to get up off your behind and do it. That's all. There's a lot of ways to connect with us. But I was thinking about today. I was thinking about like our achievements sometimes, because I was sharing with someone today that Thunderground Thursday has become increasingly difficult to broadcast. And for some of you may be able to imagine why, because it's a show that deals with action. Phones and stuff bleeping and going. Let me kill some of this. Let me mute some of this in the background. But anyway, yeah, so it's become increasingly difficult to broadcast some of this stuff because of the fact that, when you're doing this type of work and when you're doing a show like Thunderground Thursday, you're calling for a measure of action, right? You're calling for action. So the thing is, not necessarily seeing the level of action that maybe you're looking for, it makes it a little bit difficult to continue to speak about the same thing. Because how many times are you going to say, get up and do something? Because then after a while, it becomes like a stick almost, like, oh, that's just his thing. He's the get up and do something guy. So Thunderground Thursdays becomes a little difficult in that sense, because sometimes it's like, well, I'm tired of telling them to get up off their behinds and put the work in. They know by now. And, you can keep giving methods on how to do that, or you could wait until you see something and then give some more. See, sometimes that's one of the difficult things that we do when we come into our consciousness, or what we perceive to be consciousness, because one of the great disillusions or delusions that we have as a people, sadly, is that the rest of the world is out of step and out of alignment with the perceptive reality. Sometimes when we come into consciousness, we think that we're the only ones that have a grasp and a hold on the real perception, or we only have a real authentic perception of what reality is, and everyone else is totally lost and confused. And that's part of the insanity that you try to break through when you're teaching people about the virtual realities. There's virtual realities inside of virtual realities. See, there was a time when you didn't need virtual reality. You know what virtual reality is the answer for? The virtual reality, like role-playing games, or like what's the webcams they do, like on the porno sites and things like that. That's just the answer to LSD. Back in the days, they were using LSD as a means to take people into these virtual worlds and these virtual ways of seeing things. And when that was outlawed, the government comes up with the experiments, then they outlaw the experiments. And there was a lot of psychoanalysts that went to jail back in the 60s and 70s. There was a guy by the name of, I can't remember his first name. I know his last name was Leary. And he got 37 years in jail because he wanted to continue with the LSD experiments. He ended up doing 5 out of the 37. He didn't do the whole 37, but, he 5 years in the joint is, that's me. 5 days in the joint, is a big deal. But 5 years, because he was doing experiments and continuing experiments that the government had previously sanctioned using LSD. So when they found out, okay, well, we can't use this anymore in order to teach people, because you remember, like, LSD was a teaching tool. They would take people, and that's why I always tell you guys the astral planes, That's the realm that you go to learn, not just to fly around and say, "Oh, look at this! I'm in a pretty sky." And yeah, it's more than that. It's where you actually go to. You dream to learn, and you learn to wake up. You see, that's why you always dream or you remember your dreams. You have the most profound dreams the last couple of minutes before you wake up. Typically, the last 3 to 4 minutes. And that dream actually is what wakes you up, quote unquote, right? And thank you for letting me know you can hear me. Those of you who helped me out with that. But so the whole idea there is like, so it was a teaching tool, supposedly, originally. And then they figured out this virtual reality thing. There was a thing back in the days in the 80s. You guys probably might not. Some of you remember Max Hedstrom? He was in the I think it was Pepsi commercials. They're the same thing to me. It was either Pepsi or Coke. I think it was the Pepsi commercials. And he was supposed to be like this digitized. He actually even had his own TV show one time. But he was supposed to be like this digitized character. But he was artificial intelligence, basically. Even when you think about movies like Tron, this whole idea of going into virtuosity, going into this virtual world. Well, technology and computer engineers, they came up with this whole VI, or virtual intelligence, or virtual technology, as a response to the LSD experiments, to take people into different realms in order to teach them. Now, they've been using this for years. Like, one of the first programs you were able to get back in the days on Mac and Windows was flight simulators. That was like the first thing. They all came with them, flight simulators. And even Windows had them built in as what they call Easter eggs, where you could access them, but it wasn't necessarily a program that you would buy, and you would go through your simulations on how to, fly in a plane and keeping it at the horizon level and so forth and so on, which is a form of virtual reality. Now, why did they use that? So that they could teach people to fly without putting them in planes. So you start to understand that this whole virtual reality is just for learning. That's it. It's not supposed to replace life, I'm gonna get back into this. I'm gonna take a call real quick, break it up a little bit. Plus, it gives me a chance to drink some water. 856 area code. You're on Thunderground Thursday.
Yeah, that was Timothy, the first name.
Timothy
Leary.
Right. Thank you. You're absolutely right. Timothy Leary. Thank you so much. So you're familiar with that whole situation?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, I am.
Yeah, that was a very interesting. It's just a whole interesting event, But there was actually a group of them that were doing the experiments together, because they had, after he went to jail, they faded out a little bit, and then I think it was like maybe 10 years later or so, there was another crew of them that came forth and started to do the experiments again. I guess after they let some of the heat die down a little bit. But yeah, it was Timothy Leary. Give thanks. I appreciate that.
The next person I was thinking, their first name, I think it's Alex something.
Okay. Yeah. It was a whole crew of scientists. But it's always interesting, man, the things that get outlawed. People create a problem, and they create an addiction to something, and then they outlaw it, and then they come and create the solution. It's almost like the problems that people are finding with the internet now. And when you learn, you find out that the internet was originally created for military installations by the U.S. government. That was the first net. So now you create this, you give it to the people. Obviously, everybody is hooked on the internet now, and then you now come in and say, okay, we got a problem with internet security and this and that and that and that, and the government may need to lock down, and the NSA has to now monitor all the email addresses. But you created it to begin with. It's just very interesting sometimes. Yeah, but thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wanted to run a couple of things by you. If you
for sure, not a problem.
I hear echo.
You hear echo? I'm not sure. It sounds fine on my end.
Yeah, I'm hearing myself echoing.
Okay, let's see.
Stop.
Okay, Stop. It stopped just now?
Yeah, it's not doing it anymore.
Okay, let's try it again. How about now? Echo? Now it's going. Okay, cool. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Sure thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tend to. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Of course. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, of course. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, the theory is exactly what we were just talking about. Everything works in divine time, right? So you didn't call this Sunday with that, but you called tonight with it. And we were just talking about virtual reality. And that's what you're talking about. You're talking about virtual reality. What is virtual reality? I go to another plane, take on another character, but I may assimilate the same type of experiences that I have in my current active conscious life, but I'm simulating it as someone or something else in order to understand it from a different perspective. So that's virtual. I'm jumping into another body or into another consciousness or another character, and I may have the same type of format. Yeah, like you said, I have my wife, I have my children, job, but it's not mine. It's someone else's. But I understand that it's that same thought contract. But because I'm seeing it in a different form, I can learn something different about it. So yeah, that's astral travel. That's going through the astral planes for sure. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, but that could only happen if you'd have to invite that into you. You still can't, because you got to think about every night when you go to bed, the chain lifts up and the spirit roams. So if that was the case, then every night that would be a possibility. But there's still an anchoring piece. So in order for an energy to get there on some way, shape, or form, you would have had to have invited that level of intoxication by a foreign spirit, or that level of possession by a foreign spirit. You could, and you may do that unknowingly. You may. That's why when we were young, people told us don't play with Ouija boards. Because we want to invite something into us. That type of stuff. But you can unwillingly invite something in. But you're constantly moving outside of that space. Your spirit is made to roam. That's why it's more synonymous with the vibration of air. It's always moving, but it has that chain link that connects it to your base and your core, and that chain link is what keeps it from losing its seat. From losing its place. So it could come back, but also so that it still has its place. So in order for another spirit to get there, you'd have to cut the chain and put it in there and attach its chain to you. Which sometimes you do. Sometimes that's necessary to do. Sometimes you do regenerate a new spirit. You make a new spirit within you. That's okay. But in terms of like a foreign or artificial spirit, you would have to invite that vibration in to come commingle with your spirit. It's very different. I mean, when a spirit chain link cuts, you're dead. Unless you're replacing it immediately. I understand what you're saying, but look at it like this. Look if in that car, we got a car seat. Now, I can drive it, or I can get out the seat and let something else drive. But when I get out the seat to let something else drive, there's a big loop and an iron post right there with a chain attached to it. So because my chain is still on it, something else can't sit there unless it's attached to my chain. The only way it would be able to be in that car with me is if we commingle. You see, that's why most of the time when those spirits come to you, they do what? They seduce you. Now they want to do one of three things. They want to party with you, like dance with you. They want to have sex with you, or they want to fight with you. Any three of those things can now end in a commingling. Now when you turn your back on them and say, nah, you can't even be here, then that's a different thing that happens. But once I engage you in a fight, or engage you in intercourse on whatever level, or engage you in celebration, now we're commingling. I run the risk of you now taking over. That's why in those three activities, even in human form, those are the three activities that people, quote unquote, black out when they do. In their bed, when they're having sex, they just become someone else. When they're fighting, they just black out. Or sometimes on the dance floor, they just go there because they're co-mingling with other spirits in that time. So that's when they have an opportunity. But as far as like getting in the seat, that's very difficult. And listen, we're talking about another realm, man, with rules that don't work the way the rules work here. So is what you're saying possible? Anything's possible. So let me just say everything I'm saying is based on what my spiritual experience has been over the years, but I'm learning new stuff every day, and this might be one of them. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, your body also works on automatic function. So it can be guided, or you can be zombified. So when you have a situation like, okay, you're astral traveling and your body may wake up because automatic function is going to wake it up. That's why it's kind of silly sometimes when we always thanking God for waking us up this morning. That's just an automatic biological function. But that automatic biological function may occur, but the spirit is still soaring. The spirit may still be having a astral conversation with Rick James. So now it has to slowly fall back into the body because it's coming right back down that chain link. But you may have awoken before it came back down to the chain link. And there's certain things, again, you're going to do on automatic function, just like you're still going to breathe when you're sleeping, because that's just an automatic function. And that's the science of a lot of the zombie movies that you check out. A lot of the zombie movies, what do? They just move on automatic. They eat and they just walk around. And a lot of times, like I've said in other shows, most of the final showdowns in most zombie movies always happen at a shopping center. They always end up at a shopping center, which is a critique on American society, how people consume mindlessly. Okay, so there's certain things, that we're going to do just by automatic function. Like, oh man, I got up and went to the bathroom and I don't remember how I got to. Yeah, that's automatic function. I went to the kitchen and got something to drink. Yeah. So now you're getting a clue of the things that you're doing without any reason or thought. That's a gift to learn that information. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. I bet you it was one of your ancestors. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Of course she was scared. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Mm-hmm. Right. 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 Nah, man. I say it's obviously something that you're very convicted about, man. So keep going down that path. See what else you dig up, because I guarantee you're only scratching at the tip of the iceberg. you know, so keep going down it and see what comes out. You're probably going to get a revelation that's solely for you. When it comes to things like dreaming and stuff, it's a little difficult, man, because it's very cultural in the sense that the way we perceive it, like Freud's whole thing, like you mentioned Freud earlier, his whole thing was like dreams are basically your window to the subconscious mind, or what he called the unconscious mind. He didn't call it the subconscious, but dreams are your window to the unconscious mind. But it's like, because you had Freud and you had Jung, and Freud, what he did was he took all of the occultist terms and he put them like into psychobabble, to try to hide what it was. So what he's talking about really is that dreams are a window to the underworld, or more importantly, we could say that dreams are a window to the realm of the gods. One of the switch arounds that we did in this new place that we're at in terms of our psyche as a people is that we took all of our deities and we stuffed them as deep as we possibly could into our subconscious minds. All of the deities that we used to work with and talk to and have peer-to-peer relationships with, now we've stuffed them down inside of us. So now at certain times they peek their heads out, and like you said, you have this seat of consciousness. Well, like in the Yoruba tradition, we call that the Okan, or the heart. The heart is the seat of consciousness. And within the heart itself is a whole nother realm. It's like a world. The heart is just not your feelings or that piece of meat pumping in your chest. It's an actual world that you can go to. And that's where your consciousness lives. But, really what it is, man, those things that come out, we call them ancestors, and they're ancestors, but they're also really the deities that we stuff down. That's why when we start learning about the Necharu, and we start learning about the Orisha and the angels, when we get deep and we really feel like we hit something, we'll say, really, all of these entities exist within us. That's our deep statement. But we don't realize that we stuffed them down inside of us. So they're not a part of our waking functional mind. Because right now you and I are having this conversation, like, why couldn't we just go break into an ancient tongue so we could understand each other better? Because that ancient tongue we suppressed and stuffed deep down into the subconscious. Like I said, at times it will pop up to try to let you know, hey, we here too. You got some Russian in here, or you got some Asian in here. We down in here too. So it's a deep concept, brother. I would say definitely explore it a little bit more. See what else you come up with, man. I guarantee you will come up with more. But definitely thank you for the call, man. Appreciate that. Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Enjoy your day, your evening. All right. Peace. Yeah, I think actually that brother did call once before. Now I just remember it. When he said, "Are we done?" It sounded familiar. I think he called Chief Speaks one Sunday. But yeah, sometimes you'll come up with these theories, and like the brother's convicted with that theory, so follow it through. Just because you don't find it somewhere doesn't mean that it's not valid. Doesn't mean that there's nothing to it. If just because you didn't see it on Google or anything like that. Like he said, well, I started looking at Freud, and then he said I kept going because maybe he saw he didn't get what he needed there. And some things you need to explore yourself. But that's a part of like our relationship with nature that we've lost a bit. Our relationship with nature has become very oppressive and monstrous. And when I say I'm speaking about the global consciousness. I'm not talking about an indigenous thought. But we've found all of these really mechanized and more sophisticated ways to become more deeply entrenched in suicidal culture, and that's become like the hallmark of achievement in Western society. How suicidal can you be, and how big of a machine or tool or innovation can you create to further facilitate collective suicide? So we find different ways to subdue and dominate nature. And that's how we usually gauge our achievements by. So what happens is the more you dominate nature, then the more you rip and pull the spirit of nature out of it. You see, and we're not just talking about the trees. Like we go, oh, the trees, I don't feel the vibration. We're talking about the animals too. So now, whereas animals before were moving beings that taught you stories and would sit and build with you and talk to you, now they're zombies. They just function off of instinct. You know, they make their nests, they eat, you know, and we see that as a very beautiful thing. We look at it and say, wow, look at, you know, see birds just know their duty and this and that. And sometimes we don't realize it's not really so much that, it's that we've zombified them because we've been so oppressive to nature that we've ripped the spirit of things right out of it. You see, so they're gone. They say, all right, if you don't appreciate what we are and what we bring, we go somewhere else. And few creatures can keep their spirits. Cats are one of them. Cats, that's why in spiritual work, you always see a cat present. Everyone's so enamored by the cat, you see. And the cat is such a powerful creature because it kept its spirit all this time. So you can't. I'm not even gonna come when you call me. You know, the cat is such a pimpish animal. It's such a pimpish pet. You know, you think about a cat, it doesn't do anything for you. You may have mice and the cat won't even catch them for you. But when it's ready to eat, you're gonna go feed it. You're gonna do everything that cat wants you to do, but it pretty much doesn't do anything for you. It comes when it feels like coming. It's pretty solitary, you know, but it just knows that human better have my food. You know, human better change his litter. Human better get my water. Human better get my catnip, because you know catnip that's like crystal meth for the realm of cats. That's their crystal meth. You know, so yeah, it's like we strip the spirit out of things, you know, from our monstrous inventions, and then the gods that are left, we shove and push down into the subconscious mind, you know, and then we spend most of our spiritual work trying to dig them back out, just so we can act like them once again, because we've shoved them so far down deep in there. It's pretty suicidal, pretty backwards in our thinking. Take another call, 615. You're on Thunderground Thursday. Peace, brother. How you doing? Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Both. You got to do them both. Yeah, you got to do them both, man. But I will say this: if you don't remember the feeling, then the images will make no sense. So, you know, we can look at it like that, but you need them both. The thing is, the images, it's important, but you know, you're going to see the images again. It's very rare that you see an image in a dream and never see it again, like in your waking life. That's when we get those deja vu moments, because you know your spirit has raced ahead and bent the space-time continuum, and then it snaps back into the body, you know, and then you experience it chronologically later. But yeah, they're both important. Yeah, that's the input, man. The feeling is what tells you. The feeling is what tells you what kind of dream it was. You know, because you may say, "Man, I had a dream and a vulture was coming right at my face." I'm not gonna say anything yet. You know, first thing I want to ask the person is, "Well, how'd you feel about that?" They're like, "I don't know. It felt like they were getting ready to lift me up in the air and take me to like an exciting new life." Then I'm like, "Oh, okay. You know, now I know what direction to go." You know, they're like, "Oh, I thought it was going to kill me. It's a vulture. It's death. Like I was dying and the vulture was picking from my bone." Okay, we got another direction to go in. You know, so yeah, you got to pay. If you never had that feeling before, you got to search that feeling. You know, you got to search that feeling as to what that really is and what that really was, and you know that's more important. I could say, because you'll have that imagery again. You know, but the feeling is the critical piece. Yeah, that's what motivates the spirit. Yeah, right. But give thanks. Thanks for the call, brother. All right, brother. Enjoy your evening. All right, cool. Yeah, dreams, dreams, dreams make the world go round. You know, actually, it's so funny we talking about dreams. I have a course that I've been working on for dreams. Um, we were going through the webinars for next year. One of them, we're going to do a webinar on dreams. And I was looking at some of the courses and the books that I'm like working on right now. And I said, let me try to coincide some of the webinars with some of the book ideas that I've had, because the book ideas or the course ideas are always a product of repeated questions, basically. And somebody also sent a comment, put a comment on one of the videos and was like, I noticed a lot of people calling about dream interpretation. It would be cool if you guys could do a course on that. So we're gonna do a course on that, but it's not just gonna be dream interpretation, because honestly, that's kind of hard to teach. You know, like how to interpret a dream, because if I just taught straight up how to interpret a dream, I'd just be taking your money, to be honest with you, because you know, and you know, some of you by now should know that's not what I'm into. Because that is so exclusive to the person a lot of times, and definitely exclusive to the culture, that is really not something you can really teach. But you can teach all of the elements around dream interpretation that make dream interpretation possible. You know, that's really what we can teach in a course. You know, but if it's like, oh, you had a mask on in your dream, well, a mask means this. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. It depends on, again, your cultural influences. It's the same thing when you're working with candles, because we also have a webinar we're doing on candle magic. You know, everybody says, oh, well, the red candles this, or I had a guy call me once. He was like, well, listen, I don't burn black candles. I don't do that. I do. I mean, candle's a candle. You know, now it's all in how that color, how you perceive that color. But like I've always taught, fire is the same color no matter what candle you want. The fire, don't get all caught up in the color. The color is for you to look at and you to start thinking something. But if it doesn't matter, then you go burn a pile of leaves in the backyard. It does the same thing. You know, it's the fire, that's the energy that you want. You know, now when you're doing certain rituals with the actual candle, like you may be writing something into the candle or massaging it with certain omiyero, certain oils, while you're looking at that color of the candle, that's when the actual magic is happening. But once it's burning, that's it. It's off and running. You know, so yeah, when it comes to the dream and stuff, man, a lot of it is really exclusive to your culture and your perceptual context on how you're going to see certain artifacts within that dream world. You know, and but the feelings is the key part. The feelings is what gives you your compass as to which way we're going with this, you know, and how I'm perceiving it. I'm gonna take one more call. Probably one more call. 267 area code. You're on Thunderground Thursday. Peace, brother. Peace, Philly. I know this is Philly, right? Philadelphia. All right, cool. How you doing this evening? Good, good. What's going on? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not dysfunctional. I know a lot of times people say that, and that's because, well, they say that in the spiritual communities or even the pro-black communities, because linear thought is always associated with patriarchy. It's always associated with European thought. Is also associated with Western thought a lot, but that's false. You have linear thought and you have cyclical thought, because sometimes you have to think in sequence, and sometimes you have to think holistically how one move is going to affect the entire environment right now, not 3 days from now, not 3 years from now. So you need them both in order to park a car properly, in order to parallel park. That's why you always hear me joke on the radio when I'm messing with the sisters, and I say, yeah, I bet you can't parallel park. That's a joke, because women have trouble parallel parking properly because you have to think in sequence. If I turn the wheel here and I cut here, then what will I have to do next? And a lot of times they don't do that. A lot of times even women have trouble when they're pulling out of a parking spot. They'll pull out and then they'll look behind them. And that's how I ask, but that's just because they're thinking more holistically. They're thinking about everything that's going on right now. Whereas a man, he thinks more linear. What's happening next, then that, then that, then that, then that, which also causes him not to sometimes have the same quality of situational awareness that a woman would have. But you need them both. You need linear thought and you need holistic thought. So no, one is not a dysfunction or anything like that. No, I mean they work hand in hand together. Yeah, they work hand in hand together. Yeah, if you wanna call the coin thought, or Tahuti, if you want to call it the coin thought, then there are different ways to approach thought. Yeah, so you could say it like that. Yeah. Yeah. One is not better than the other. Yeah. All right. Give thanks. You anytime, my brother. Take care. Peace. Yeah, a lot of times, man, it's good for us to study a little bit. And what I mean study, like study some of the terms that are used like in the conscious community to make sure that what we're saying makes sense. And I'm not talking about the last call. I was actually just thinking about something with DNA and genetics. And those are terms that are thrown around a lot in like communities of higher knowing, we'll say. And a lot of times when I'm listening, I'm like, they're not even using the words right. Like they don't know what DNA is, or you can hear by the way they're talking about it. But they like certain things become buzzwords. And sometimes if you would just study exactly what's being said in the words, you'd be surprised how much further it could take you in your understanding of said thing. A lot of times people ask me, what books do I study to know all the stuff that I study? I say, man, one of the best things you could just study are encyclopedias and dictionaries. Just if you just know what you're talking about, when it's coming out your mouth, then you'll be surprised how much more profound the conversation will be when you finally sit in front of your shrine, because you're not sitting in front of your shrine just blabbering about foolishness. You actually know what's exiting out of your mouth and things like that. So sometimes, and again, that's not talking about the brother who just called, because it was a legitimate question, and that's why I first referenced it to. Yeah, I know we use those terms a lot, but people, just like people say, "Oh, down with patriarchy," and another person say, "Well, down with matriarchy." And like I said in the recent show, you're just dealing with matriarchy is ma'at and patriarchy is patah. They exist together, just like linear thought and cyclical thought exist together. You need both of them to make the world go round. Everything can't be ordered in sequence, because if everything is ordered in sequence, then a lot of times you end up the machine breaks. The machine breaks. When you're thinking more of feminine thought, a woman is going to be concerned with, are we right for the journey? You get ready to go on a road trip with a woman. What's she doing? She's packing snacks and water and extra tissue, and extra sunglasses and all that. She's thinking about the situational awareness. What's our situation right now? Brother, I know you got big dreams and you want to try to, drive 21 hours straight, but let's look at what's going on right now. She's more in tune with that situational awareness. And He's just thinking about the trip. She's thinking about the trip, about his health, about the overall fatigue and antsiness of everyone in the car. She's thinking about everything that's going on at the same time, and sometimes, a lot of times, women mistake that for multitasking, and it's not multitasking. That's something different. A lot of times women will say, yeah, and their blankets. A lot of times women need to travel with blankets in the car because women are always cold for some reason. But a lot of times women will say, well, sisters, we're good at multitasking, but they're not really. They're not good at multitasking at all. What they do is they just panic when everything drops. That's not really their thing. Their thing is situational awareness. Not necessarily the higher picture, but the lower picture. And the man's job is the higher picture. You need the hawk, but you also need the mouse. Without the mouse, man, you miss everything that's going on right in front of you. The hawk is not seeing all that detail. The hawk is just seeing the goal. I see a snake down there. I'm going to eat the snake. I'm going to swoop in and get that snake. And the mouse is looking at all of the fine details on the ground that need to be taken care of first, because the mouse sees the snake's hole. So you ain't getting that snake. You didn't even notice there's a hole right there that the snake's going to go in. So yeah, man, that really being able to mix and understand the different places and properties that each form of thinking comes in is important. And linear thought is not a Western thing. It's not a white man thing. I know everybody says that. That's white people think linear. They also think holistically. I know it hurts, but that's when you start growing up and getting out of the childish level of your RBG pursuits, or the childish level of your African consciousness. And you start to realize that, look, man, some other people in the world know how to do stuff too. You ain't the only ones. And if we look at the law of balances, maybe, we were on top. Maybe you got to be on bottom now. Somebody else got to be on top for a little while. Maybe. It's just a theory. I'm not saying that's the truth, but other people have different talents in the world too. Like I always say, man, if it's time to go fight a war in the tundra, you better hope the Europeans are ready to go, because you know how we are in the cold. But at the same time, when it's time to fight in the jungle, nobody beats us, because we don't mind that heat. We can be in the heat. Everybody brings something. Everybody brings something to the table, until those things are no longer needed at the table. So that's why it's important to exploit. And we got 60 seconds. We're getting ready to close down. But that's why it's so critical and important to exploit the talents of your own ethnic privilege that you were handed and given, because those talents are what carve out your character to the world. When you're so busy trying to simulate and emulate somebody else's talent and somebody else's property, and you end up assimilating unknowingly also all of their hangups and phobias without even thinking about it, But anyway, that has been our Thunderground Thursday. I want to thank you for all the calls that came in. We'll definitely be tuning in or broadcasting in tomorrow night, Friday, for Foundational Friday. We'll be dealing with deeper spiritual topics, because Thunderground Thursday, well, even though we hit some spiritual stuff tonight, we've been kind of freestyling the past month since I've been doing the shows live. And I'm enjoying that too. But tomorrow we'll be dealing with some more spiritual stuff. I got some good stuff for you all. 9 p.m. tomorrow evening Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Enlightenment and Transformation TV. So you can tune in via YouTube, or you can call in at 347-945-7680, or come to blogtalkradio.com/enlightenment and transformation. And I'll be right here. So be sure to call in. Let's build tomorrow evening. And until such time, I am Chief Yuya. Hotepu.